The episode begins with a flashback set in 1935. In Juniper Hill, we observe a girl sleeping when Ingrid Kirsch, the facility's maintenance worker, enters the room and gently wakes her. The small patient at the psychiatric hospital follows Ingrid down some dark stairs. During the descent, Ingrid asks her name, and the girl replies that her name is Mabel. Ingrid then leads her to the basement, where amidst dense steam and noisy machinery, a red balloon floats next to a motionless door until a hand encased in a white glove pinches its string. Mabel wants to leave, but Ingrid remains absorbed, almost mesmerized by the presence of the clown.
Sweetheart, it's okay, it's just a balloon.
Han harshly reprimands Will for disobeying him, but Will pushes back, insisting his father is being unfair and reminding him that the creature killed Russo. He couldn't just stand by and do nothing. Charlotte tries to mediate, but Han stops her, saying she wasn't there and can't understand what he experienced. Han explains that the entity is unlike any enemy they've faced. It can change shape, feed on fear, and almost read the thoughts of its victims. Will argues that he knows exactly what the creature can do. It has attacked them repeatedly and won't stop. Han forbids him from leaving his room, but Will refuses. He says he was taught not to hide from problems, that friendships and risks give life meaning, and his friends need him now, just as he believes his father would have acted. Han responds that he is not like Will's grandfather, and Will fires back that he knows because Han would let his friends die. Overcome with anger and emotion, Han slaps him. Will then reveals that the creature also trapped him and infiltrated his mind. Han denies it, but Will demands that he stay back and storms out of the base.
Come here, son.
Get away from me!
Meanwhile, posters spread across town announcing Hank Grogan's disappearance and offering a reward for information. At the tower, the kids gather as Ronnie stares at the notice declaring her father missing and wanted by the authorities. Lily shows them the dagger she found in the sewers, explaining that it glowed, and the creature seemed afraid of it before vanishing. Will notes that the dagger looks ancient, maybe tied to the hieroglyphics on its hilt. Lily begins to grow oddly possessive of the weapon. Believing the dagger scares the creature, Lily proposes they return to the sewers and finish it once and for all. Ronnie, frustrated, argues that Lily nearly got them all killed the first time and now wants them to go back. She accuses Lily of being crazy. Hurt, Lily clutches the dagger tightly. March, worried, tries to take it, but Lily refuses. Through tears, Lily asks Ronnie if she really thinks she wanted things to turn out this way. She says that if she could go back, she'd never have gone to Ronnie's house that day. She reminds Ronnie that she was in the cinema booth and didn't see anything, that Lily was the only one who made it out alive, and Maddie came back to warn them Phil was still alive. She asks Ronnie to try to understand her perspective, but Ronnie fires back that if they had never gone to Lily's house, everyone might still be alive and the police wouldn't be hunting her father. Lily tries to explain that all she wanted was to help, even if everything went wrong. Rich steps in, reminding them that this is exactly what the creature wants, to turn them against each other. But Ronnie, overwhelmed by grief and anger, shouts that they should have never taken Lily out of Juniper Hill, cutting Lily deeply with her words.
This is what it wants! To turn us against each other!
They should have never let you out of Juniper Hill!
Haloran returns to the new hideout he shares with his companions. They immediately ask where he's been, but he tells them he can't say. Excited, they tell him they're planning a small celebration for the next day, with music, drinks, and girls to properly christen the place. As Haloran searches for alcohol, he suddenly starts acting strange, staring at something only he seems to see. His companions, uneasy, ask if he's okay. He says he is, though his distant gaze suggests otherwise. Suddenly, water begins spreading across the floor. Haloran points out that the refrigerator is leaking and needs to be replaced before the floor rots. Elsewhere, Ronnie tells Will that the creature won't stop until one of them dies. They barely escaped the tunnels alive, and now Lily wants to drag them back into that nightmare. Will thinks Ronnie was too harsh on Lily, but Ronnie admits she's exhausted from living in constant fear. Will admits he feels the same, and the two share a hug. They're about to kiss when Charlotte arrives, looking for Will, and tells Ronnie to get in the car as well. Back at the hideout, Haloran discovers his companions have been hiding Hank there. Shocked, he asks how they could bring in someone being hunted across the entire city. They explain that Charlotte asked them to hide him, and she has a plan to move him out without being detected. Hank promises them he'll stay hidden and won't leave under any circumstances. Overwhelmed by all the problems piling up, Haloran decides to step away. Just then, Charlotte, Ronnie, and Will arrive. Ronnie rushes to her father and embraces him in tears. Haloran observes from a distance, and although Charlotte tries to thank him, he asks her to leave him out of it and quietly walks away. Hank, emotional, promises Ronnie they will never be separated again. Meanwhile, March and Rich remain in the tower. March asks why Rich is still there, and he explains that his paper airplane still hasn't reached the main avenue, asking if she wants to try. March says she needs to change her bandage instead. Rich offers to help, mentioning he was a Boy Scout and learned a trick to remove bandages without pain. He carefully assists her, and when her injured eye is exposed, March shyly asks if she looks awful. Rich, unexpectedly sincere, tells her she doesn't. If anything, it's the most impressive thing he's ever seen, and he stares at her for a moment. Embarrassed, March says she can finish the rest herself. Rich then reflects on the earlier fight, noting how Lily and Ronnie nearly tore each other apart. He admits he has a bad feeling. The creature isn't done with them. He also wonders if Lily might be right about her discovery in the sewers. Maybe it really is the only way to stop the creature, and they'd stand a better chance if they stuck together. After helping March secure the new bandage, he throws his paper airplane again and watches it glide toward the entrance of the sewers. Later, Haloran is at the base, drinking to drown his demons. Hanlong enters. Haloran offers him a drink, but Hanlong declines and informs him of new orders from Shaw. No matter how many soldiers die, they must continue searching for the pillars. Haloran says that if he were Shaw, he would have started with that from the beginning. Suddenly, Haloran's vision distorts. Behind Han, he sees the apparition of a dead soldier with half his face torn off. Han asks what truly happened in the sewers. Haloran says he thinks they angered the creature, but Han clarifies he's talking about Haloran himself, why he stayed down there for hours and what he experienced. Haloran finally opens up. As a child, his gift allowed him to see the dead. His grandmother had a weaker version of the same ability, enough to understand what he was going through. Since the vision stopped him from sleeping, she taught him a trick. Imagine a huge box. Put everything he didn't want to see inside and seal it shut. At 9 years old, he placed all the dead he saw into that mental box and closed it forever. He hadn't seen anything since, until yesterday, when the creature broke into his mind, ripped the lid off, and laughed as if freeing everything he had locked away. Han asks if Haloran can see the dead right now. Haloran explains that his grandmother used to say the dead returned to the place they died, and he believes one or two found their creator down there. Han asks if the apparitions talk to him. Haloran says no, unless he opens his mouth. If he does, the voices never stop, and they know things no living person should know. Han insists. Can the dead help them find what they're looking for? Annoyed, Haloran asks if Han hasn't heard anything he just said, but Han presses on. He's already lost a comrade, nearly killed his own son, and they both need to complete the mission before more people get hurt. When things get tough, this is the job. If Haloran's gift can help, Han asks him to use it. Haloran, tense and frightened, asks what happens if he can't put everything back the way it was. He refuses outright and, frustrated, calls Han a bootlicker. Han reminds him that he's his superior, but Haloran stands his ground and yells at him to get out. Losing patience, Han threatens him. Haloran must be willing to do his duty, or he'll be escorted off the base in handcuffs. Han returns to his quarters on the base and asks Charlotte where Will is. She tells him that he's probably with his friends, the only people he can trust right now, and admits she doesn't blame him for preferring their company. Charlotte then confronts Han about hitting their son. Han tries to justify himself, saying he wasn't in his right mind after everything that happened in the sewers and with Russo. Charlotte stays calm, but makes her disappointment clear. She hugs him, but quickly reminds him that he was the one who locked them in a cage with a monster. As she packs her clothes, Charlotte reveals her plan. She will help Hank escape the city, and then she and Will return to their home in Shiftport. She tells Han he can join them when he's finished serving the country he repeatedly puts before his own family. But first, she says, he needs to repair his relationship with Will. With that last warning, she takes her suitcase and leaves. Meanwhile, at school, Lily can't stop hearing Pennywise's cruel words. "You brought everyone to me. You're a very good friend, but a terrible daughter." Sitting at her desk, she clutches the dagger like it's her only protection. When she opens her desk, she sees a hallucination of her father mocking her, and she jolts in front of the entire class. Suddenly, the dagger begins glowing again, as if responding to something unseen. Terrified and overwhelmed, Lily stands up and leaves the classroom without asking the teacher's permission. In the school cafeteria, Rich tells March that he knows where Hank is, while both plan to visit Ronnie in the hope of convincing her to rejoin the group. They also talk about their bad night. They could barely sleep, convinced they heard voices coming from the sewers. Rich confesses to March that during the night, he had to urinate in a jar inside his room. Amused, she comments that in medieval times that was called a chamber pot, and even knights used it. To cheer her up, Rich gives her a small patch for her eye.
I've always wanted to be a pirate. A pirate and a knight.
At that moment, Patty and her friends approach triumphantly. Patty tells March that everyone wants to know how she managed to escape death, and that it would be better to tell the story sitting at their table, implying that she won't want to stay with Rich and the other freaks. March proudly stands up, proclaims that she herself is a freak, and to scare them off, she removes the patch. The oozing scab is so disgusting that one of Patty's friends is almost breathless. The girls flee screaming, and a satisfied March returns to her seat. Later, Rich, March, and Will head to the place where Hank and Ronnie are hiding. Meanwhile, Lily walks to Ingrid's house. Before going in, she notices the neighbor next door staring at her with an unsettling smile. No one answers the door, so she decides to enter. The house is silent, but faint music drifts from upstairs. Lily cautiously climbs the stairs. While searching the rooms, she finds an old photo album. Inside are pictures of Ingrid's wedding, anniversaries, and portraits from her younger years. But then she turns to photos dated 1908 from Cumberland County, Maine, showing a young Ingrid with Bob Gray. Leaning closer, Lily is horrified to see how much Bob Gray resembles Pennywise. Suddenly, Ingrid appears behind her and asks what she's doing there. Lily explains the door was open and asks if she's okay. Ingrid says she is, though Lily nervously mentions that they went into the tunnels. Ingrid reminds her that she begged her not to go, but Lily insists they had no choice. Breaking down, Lily hugs her and says she didn't know where else to turn. Ingrid comforts her, telling her she's in the right place. Then Lily sees more photos in the corner. Bob Gray dressed as Pennywise. Ingrid notices Lily staring and asks what's wrong. When she sees the photo herself, she immediately understands. With unsettling enthusiasm, she begins to laugh and says she's glad Lily brought Pennywise back. She points toward an old clown costume, and Lily suddenly realizes that the figure they saw in the cemetery was Ingrid, and that Ingrid was also the one outside Will's house. When Lily questions her, Ingrid explains that her father was a fairground performer known as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. She adored him, but one day he was taken from her when the fair left town, leaving her alone in Derry, longing for him. She always felt she would one day be drawn back to him. A flashback shows Ingrid working at Juniper Hill. One day, she overhears a young girl saying her parents don't believe her when she talks about Pennywise. She tells them he wants to show her his fair, that he's hiding in the pipes, and that he invited her to the basement at night. That girl is Mabel. At that moment, Ingrid realizes Pennywise has returned. We then witness the episode's opening scene in the basement. Pennywise emerges from the steam and machinery, smiling menacingly. He offers Mabel a red balloon and tells her he's brought a new friend. Ingrid asks if he is really her father, but Pennywise only laughs before shifting into his monstrous form and terrifying them both. They try to escape, but Mabel falls. The door slams shut, locking Mabel inside with the clown. Ingrid desperately tries to open it, but can't. She hears Mabel's screams until Pennywise devours her. Suddenly, carnival music plays, and Pennywise takes the form of Bob Gray. In a soft voice, he tells Ingrid he's missed her, that she shouldn't be afraid, and that she only needs to open the door and let him in. Through tears and confusion, Ingrid does exactly that. Back in the present, Ingrid tells Lily that it was him, her father.
Everything's gonna be all fine.
However, every time that shadow reappeared, she felt like it was stealing her father from her again. That's why she was convinced that she had to find a way to free him. She had done what was necessary to get him back, to see him again, to remind him of the love they shared. She believes with absolute faith that he will be able to free himself if she helps him. Lily, trembling, begs her not to hurt her. Ingrid responds that she would never allow anything to hurt Lily. Lily then asks if that protection also extends to her friends, but Ingrid merely tells her that more than anyone she should understand. If there was a chance to see her father again, to hug him and become his little girl again, she would do anything to make that happen. Lily insists that her father is dead, but Ingrid reminds her of the old Derry saying, "He who dies here doesn't really die." Then she holds out her hand and invites Lily to accompany her that night. At that moment, Lily, gripped by fear and confusion, brandishes the dagger and makes a small cut on Ingrid's palm before fleeing the house, terrified by everything she has just discovered. Meanwhile, at the resting place where Haloran and his companions lie, the kids gather around Ronnie. March tells her that if they're going to face that thing, they have to do it together. But Ronnie shakes her head. She isn't moving until she knows her father is safe. Will tries to reassure her, insisting that Hank will be fine, that no one knows he's hiding there. But Ronnie refuses. She won't be separated from her father again. Will hurries after her, leaving March and Rich behind, who quietly watch the impromptu celebration of Haloran's companions from a distance. When Will catches up, he tells Ronnie that they actually have a chance to stop that thing forever, but it would be better if they were united. Ronnie stops and asks him if he seriously thinks her father would ever let her go back to that cursed place. At that moment, Hank, who has been listening, steps in. He firmly says that he's not letting Ronnie go anywhere. He understands Will's concern, but Ronnie will not be alone. With a slight smile, he adds that his daughter has a very gentlemanly friend by her side, clearly referring to Will. Noticing the boy's interest in Ronnie, Hank casually asks what his favorite movie is, as if trying to get to know the kid who seems to care so much about his daughter. Meanwhile, at the Falcon Tavern, Phil and Susie's father sits with several men, frustrated that they still haven't found Hank. They wonder where else they could search. They already checked the vacant lots and found nothing. One suggests he might be hiding in the sewers. Another says they'll have to divide up again and investigate every underground passage. They even consider the area beyond the rail yard, where some vagrants usually sleep. Just then, Bowers walks in. He claims he knows where Hank is. And no, it's not the rail yard. He says a woman called with a tip. She didn't give her name, but considering the place she mentioned, he thinks the information is legit. The men ask if he plans to arrest Hank. Bowers bitterly replies that even if he wanted to, he can't. When he got the call, he was cleaning out his desk. The deputy mayor had just relieved him of duty. Apparently, they've lost confidence in his ability to serve and protect. He laughs dryly. No, he couldn't even write Hank a fine now. Back at the celebration, Haloran keeps drinking, trying to drown out the noise around him. March and Rich decide to stay as well, soaking in the strange but lively atmosphere. Rich orders 2 sodas and watches a couple dancing way too close, wondering what sort of dance that is, and what exactly they're trying to say with all that proximity. When the drinks arrive, Rich comments that they taste weird, but the man who brings them explains they're just Air Force sodas. Still, they shrug and take a sip, lifting their glasses in a toast to the moment. Meanwhile, Will tells Hank that he saw the War of the Worlds at the base recreation center, and he absolutely loved it. Hank smiles and congratulates him, saying he seems like a brilliant young man, and if anything were ever to happen to him, it comforts him to know that someone with Will's character is looking out for his daughter. Will responds with confidence. Nothing is going to happen to either of them, not to Ronnie and not to Hank. A while later, Will finally returns to his friends. Rich is visibly disappointed when he hears that Will couldn't convince Hank to let Ronnie go into the sewers. Before Will can say anything else, a band member walks up to Rich and asks if he plays any instruments. Rich shrugs and says he knows a little. The man explains that they're about to start, but their drummer is indisposed, drunk, and passed out somewhere, and asks Rich to fill in. March immediately encourages him. She teases that she's never actually seen him play, which only boosts his confidence. Rich accepts, takes his place at the drums, and soon the band starts playing. The mood shifts into something warm, lively, almost peaceful. March sips her Air Force soda and beams with pride. watching Rich play as if the world outside has stopped spinning for a brief, precious moment. For a moment, it feels like everyone is free from their troubles. Or so they believe. Meanwhile, Ingrid prepares her Pennywise attire, and the air around her feels heavier than ever, as if Pennywise himself is pressing closer, step by step. At the same time, on the outskirts of the celebration venue, we see a couple waiting in their parked car. More vehicles begin arriving. The woman asks the young man if they're expecting more people, and he calmly tells her no. But she doesn't have time to question him. Suddenly, the lynching mob storms in. Masked men holding shotguns, moving with violent intent. Their arrival cuts through the night like a blade, bringing a new and terrifying threat to the celebration. The episode ends in chilling suspense. Who will survive this night? If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more thrilling stories, and leave a comment to share your thoughts. Make sure to check out our other videos. The adventure doesn't stop here.